I authorize Jenny and Sumit as husband and wife.
The person standing next to your hospital bed, holding your hand, and crying on camera for donations is actually the person stealing your only chance at survival. I stumbled across this insane story while scrolling through TikTok last night, and the more I dug into the Instagram receipts, the leaked screenshots, and the rumor mills, the more it felt like the darkest reality show episode you have ever witnessed. We are talking about a level of betrayal that makes standard internet drama look entirely harmless. It started as a heartbreaking plea to save a vibrant, beautiful girl named Jenny, who suddenly fell dangerously ill with a condition that put her right on the edge. Everyone rallied. The internet did its thing, opening their wallets and sharing her story far and wide. But the guy orchestrating it all, her absolute rock and most trusted confidant, Sumit, was playing a game so deeply twisted that it left even the most hardened investigators completely speechless. Before we dive into exactly how millions vanished into thin air and the shocking identity of the mystery woman who just blew this whole case wide open, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out, and you absolutely do not want to miss the crazy updates we drop every single week. So let us break down exactly how the ultimate savior became the ultimate villain in record time. Jenny was the kind of person everyone gravitated toward. She was the life of the party, always smiling, with a massive circle of friends who adored her. When she suddenly collapsed and was rushed to the hospital, the diagnosis was grim. The doctors made it clear that surviving this was going to take immediate, highly aggressive treatments, and those treatments came with an astronomical price tag. Her family was paralyzed with shock, and that is exactly when Sumit stepped up. To everyone watching from the outside, Sumit looked like the ultimate hero. He took charge of everything. He set up the crowdfunding campaigns, he organized international wire transfers, and he was the face of the desperate pleas on social media. People were weeping watching his videos. The donations poured in from all over the world. It was a massive success, and the funds raised were more than enough to cover Jenny's mounting hospital bills. But that wasn't the whole story. While the internet was busy praising Sumit for being the most devoted partner imaginable, a very quiet, very dark reality was playing out behind the scenes. Jenny's closest friend, who had been practically living at the hospital, went to the billing department to check on the latest round of payments. The hospital administration handed her a piece of paper that made her blood run cold. None of the bills had been paid, not a single one. The hospital was threatening to halt the critical life-saving treatments because the account was deeply in the red. The friend panicked. She pulled up the public crowdfunding page, which proudly displayed hundreds of thousands in successful donations. The money was there, but it wasn't reaching the hospital. When she tried to call Sumit to figure out this massive discrepancy, his phone went straight to voicemail, and what happened next would shock everyone. The deeper the investigators dug into those encrypted messages between Sumit and the mysterious Riya, the more it became brutally obvious that Sumit wasn't the untouchable mastermind he believed himself to be. In fact, he was about to experience the most crushing, humiliating reality check imaginable. This brings us to the ultimate isolation, the moment where the villain realizes he has been completely outplayed at his own twisted game. While Sumit was busy sitting in that cold holding cell, grinning at Jenny's grieving best friend and bragging about his untraceable wealth, a completely different reality was unfolding on the blockchain. According to explosive rumors circulating among digital forensics experts on Reddit, the offshore cryptocurrency wallets where Sumit had stashed the millions of dollars in stolen donations suddenly activated. But it wasn't Sumit moving the money. Reports claim that every single digital asset, every Bitcoin, every hidden token was systematically drained in a matter of minutes and transferred into an inaccessible dark web mixer. And the person holding the master keys? It was Riya. The internet absolutely exploded with theories when this alleged detail leaked. Sumit thought he was the puppet master, the brilliant orchestrator of the perfect crime who used Jenny's tragic illness to fund his lavish lifestyle. But the growing consensus online is that Sumit was actually the ultimate mark. People are speculating that Riya wasn't his devoted partner in crime or a subordinate he could control. She was a professional, high-level phantom who saw a narcissistic, ego-driven man with a lot of public sympathy and decided to use him as her personal shield. She let Sumit take all the risks. She let him put his face on camera, cry to the public, set up the campaigns, and sign the leases for luxury stores. And the very second the police slapped the handcuffs on him, she pulled the digital rug right out from under his feet. When Sumit's legal team allegedly broke the news to him in jail that his secret wallets had been emptied and his phantom partner had vanished with the entirety of the stolen funds, that chilling psychopathic smile finally wiped off his face. This is the exact moment his self-sabotage reached its absolute peak. Sumit was now completely and utterly isolated. He had burned every single bridge in his life. The public, who once hailed him as a hero, now despised him with a fiery passion, tearing apart his entire digital existence. His friends and family completely abandoned him, refusing to even issue statements on his behalf. His shiny new business was seized by the authorities, his reputation was permanently destroyed, and the woman he supposedly loved was fighting for her life in the ICU because of his actions. And now, the massive payout he had sold his soul for was entirely gone. He was left with absolutely nothing but a concrete cell and the terrifying realization that he had been conned by the very person he thought he was conspiring with. He is trapped in the ultimate double bind. If he stays silent, he takes the fall for the entire massive fraud, facing years behind bars while Riya enjoys the millions on a beach somewhere. But if he screams and points the finger at Riya, he has to legally confess to his own premeditated intent to steal the money in the first place, cementing his guilt and sealing his own fate. This isolation is a psychological masterpiece of karma. It is the reality check that every reality TV villain eventually faces when the cameras stop rolling and the audience turns against them. You can manipulate the narrative for a little while. You can use smoke and mirrors to hide your true intentions. But eventually, the facade cracks. Sumit built a house of cards on a foundation of sheer human suffering, and he was so blinded by his own reflection that he didn't even see the hurricane coming to blow it all down. He became a prisoner of his own greed, locked in a cage of his own making, without a single ally left in the world to bail him out. But while Sumit's story ends in the dark, cold isolation of a jail cell, we have to talk about the true point of no return in this tragic saga: Jenny. The stark contrast between Sumit's pathetic downfall and Jenny's desperate battle for survival is what makes this story so incredibly haunting. As Sumit realized he had lost everything, Jenny was in the ICU, surrounded by the relentless, chaotic noise of life support machines. The doctors were working around the clock, exhausting every possible medical option to keep her stabilized. Her pulse was faint, her body was failing, but she was still fighting. And this is where the internet proved that for all its toxicity and drama, it can still be a powerful force for good. When the news broke that the hospital bills were unpaid and that Sumit had stolen the original funds, the public didn't just sit back and watch the tragedy unfold. They mobilized with a vengeance. Jenny's loyal best friend, the one who originally exposed the entire scam, worked directly with the hospital administration to set up a brand new, secure, incredibly transparent relief fund. This time, there were no middlemen, no shady crypto wallets, and no charismatic boyfriends managing the cash. The money went directly to the medical facility. Within 48 hours, the true power of community showed up. Thousands of people who had already donated to Sumit's fraudulent campaign reached back into their pockets and donated again. Commentary channels, influencers, and absolute strangers amplified the real link, determined not to let Sumit's cruel betrayal be the end of Jenny's story. Whether Jenny will fully recover and win this terrible, unfair fight against her illness is a question that remains painfully unanswered. The damage caused by the delayed treatments and the sheer physical stress of the situation is severe, and she is still hovering in that terrifying space between life and something else. But one thing is absolutely certain. She is no longer fighting alone, and she is no longer at the mercy of a monster wearing a hero's mask. The point of no return for this entire narrative isn't just about a scam. It is a brutal, necessary lesson about the dark side of internet empathy. It forces us to look in the mirror and question the parasocial relationships we build with people we only know through a screen. It teaches us that the loudest voice in the room, the one crying the hardest for the cameras, might just be the one holding the dagger. Sumit's legacy will forever be cemented as a cautionary tale of extreme narcissism and catastrophic self-own. He had the opportunity to be a decent human being, to stand by the woman he claimed to cherish, but he traded his humanity for a temporary illusion of wealth. And in the end, that illusion evaporated into thin air, leaving him with the darkest, quietest reality imaginable. If this deep dive into the twisted psychology and shocking betrayal of this case kept you hooked, you absolutely need to hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a like on the video to help push this story out into the algorithm so more people can learn the truth, and jump down into the comments to let me know your thoughts. Do you think Riya was a professional mastermind who played Sumit from the start, or is there another massive plot twist waiting to be uncovered? I want to hear all your theories. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next deep dive. Reports claim that while Jenny was physically fighting for her next breath in a sterile hospital room, Sumit was completely off the grid, busy cutting a shiny red ribbon at the grand opening of his brand new, ultra-luxury retail store on the other side of the city. You cannot make this stuff up. The sheer audacity of begging the public for life-saving funds, only to immediately funnel that cash into a high-end personal business venture, is the ultimate self-sabotage. Sumit built a massive public spotlight on himself as the grieving, desperate caretaker, effectively guaranteeing that hundreds of thousands of eyes were watching his every move. He built his own trap. He couldn't resist the urge to show off his sudden influx of wealth, completely ignoring the fact that the very people who gave him that money were watching him flaunt it. Jenny's friend didn't confront him. She knew that if she tipped him off, the money would disappear forever. Instead, rumors suggest she went straight to the authorities and filed a confidential complaint with the DB police, laying out the entire paper trail of donations versus the unpaid hospital bills. The police did not waste a single second. Acting on the tip, they executed a sudden, unannounced raid right in the middle of Sumit's luxurious new store. Customers were browsing, the music was playing, and suddenly, law enforcement swarmed the building. They placed Sumit in handcuffs in front of everyone, dragging him out of his own grand opening. It felt like justice was served instantly. The bad guy was caught, the money would be returned, and Jenny would get her treatments. But the authorities were about to hit a brick wall that nobody saw coming. When investigators seized Sumit's devices and froze his brand new corporate and personal bank accounts, they expected to find the massive pool of donated funds sitting right there. Instead, they stared at screens showing a balance of absolute zero. The accounts had been entirely cleaned out. The money wasn't in the store, it wasn't in his banks, and it certainly wasn't at the hospital. This is where the credibility of everything Sumit had ever said completely shattered into a million pieces. The police quickly realized they weren't dealing with an opportunistic amateur who just wanted to open a shop. They were dealing with a highly sophisticated financial scheme. Leaked reports from the investigation suggest that Sumit had meticulously, over the course of weeks, siphoned the massive waves of internet donations directly into untraceable cryptocurrency wallets and underground Hundi networks, effectively washing the money and sending it straight out of the country to anonymous offshore accounts. And right when the public thought this story couldn't get any darker, a brand new name surfaced in the investigation, sending TikTok sleuths into an absolute frenzy. Riya. Who on earth is Riya? Suddenly, this missing money wasn't just a solo inside job. According to whispers online, Riya was listed as the primary receiver on several of the initial shadow transfers before the money vanished into the crypto void. The moment the police raided Sumit's store, Riya completely ghosted. Her phone was permanently disconnected. When investigators rushed to the physical address listed on her documents, they found an empty lot. Everything about her digital and physical footprint was entirely fabricated. Fans online are aggressively speculating right now, trying to figure out her true role. Some reports claim she is Sumit's secret mastermind girlfriend who pulled the strings from the shadows, convincing him to betray the woman fighting for her life. Others argue she might just be a stolen identity, a phantom created by Sumit to take the fall if things went sideways. The sheer isolation of her character in this narrative has everyone guessing. Is she running with the millions, or is she just another one of Sumit's victims whose identity was weaponized for his greed? The stakes escalated to a terrifying level that same night. Sumit was sitting in a cold holding cell, stripped of his designer clothes and his shiny new business owner title. Jenny's friend, the one who tipped off the police, managed to get access to see him in lockup, desperate to demand the crypto keys or the offshore account numbers to save Jenny's life. She expected to see a broken, terrified man begging for forgiveness. Instead, she got something straight out of a horror movie. Sitting behind the bars, Sumit reportedly looked directly into her eyes and let out a slow, chilling smile. Without an ounce of remorse, he calmly told her that they could lock him up for as long as they wanted, but they would never, ever find the money. And then, he delivered a knockout blow that still has the internet reeling. He looked at her and whispered that without that cash, Jenny wouldn't last much longer anyway. It was a sick, twisted prophecy that manifested almost immediately. Within hours of that confrontation in the police station, alarms started blaring in Jenny's hospital wing. Her condition nosedived so violently and so suddenly that doctors were forced to rush her straight into the ICU, frantically hooking her up to emergency life support. Her pulse rate began to plummet, and the grim reality set in for everyone standing in that quiet, sterile hallway. The money that was supposed to save her was gone, floating in an untraceable digital ledger somewhere across the globe, while the man who swore to protect her sat in a cell, smiling at the chaos he created. The physical toll on Jenny was mirroring the absolute destruction of the trust she had placed in him. And right now, she is fighting a desperate, losing battle against both her illness and the clock. While the medical team was frantically working around the clock to stabilize Jenny in the ICU, the internet was doing what it does best, going to absolute war. The moment the news of Sumit's arrest and his sinister jailhouse smile hit the web, thousands of armchair detectives, TikTok sleuths, and reality TV commentary channels mobilized. People were furious. They had donated their hard-earned money, skipped meals, and emptied their savings accounts because they believed in this beautiful, tragic love story that Sumit had sold them. But as the digital footprint of his past started being aggressively dug up, a deeply disturbing character study began to unfold in real time. We are talking about a behavioral flaw so massive and so deeply ingrained that his self-sabotage was practically inevitable. According to massive threads popping up across forums and viral Instagram reels, Sumit wasn't just a good guy who made a sudden, desperate mistake. Rumors suggest that his entire persona was a meticulously crafted illusion, a mask he had been wearing for years to hide a relentless, pathological obsession with status and luxury. People who claimed to know him from his hometown started going live on social media, dropping explosive allegations that completely shattered his knight-in-shining armor image. One viral video from an alleged former roommate claimed that Sumit had a history of attaching himself to vulnerable, successful women, draining their resources, and then entirely ghosting them when the money dried up. There is a lot of buzz online that years ago, he was involved in a shady tech startup that mysteriously went bankrupt overnight, leaving his investors with empty pockets while he was suddenly spotted driving a brand new sports car. He was obsessed with the aesthetic of extreme wealth, and that is exactly what makes his downfall so ironic. His ultimate behavioral flaw was his absolutely fragile ego. If he had just quietly taken the millions he siphoned from Jenny's medical fund and laid low, he might have actually gotten away with it. But he couldn't. His desperate, overwhelming need to be perceived as a high society mogul forced him to open that incredibly flashy, heavily publicized luxury store. He literally built a neon sign pointing directly at his own financial crimes because his vanity was louder than his survival instinct. And just as the public was dissecting his massive ego, a brand new piece of evidence leaked online that took the inauthenticity to a whole new, nauseating level. It was a leaked audio recording. Somehow, a jailhouse phone call between Sumit and an unidentified person, who many speculate could be a member of his legal team, or possibly even the phantom Riya, found its way onto a major gossip page. This was his big chance to spin the narrative, his desperate, failed emotional appeal to the public that was currently sharpening their pitchforks. In the audio, you can hear Sumit trying to force a crying, trembling voice. He goes on this long, agonizing rant, claiming that the police entirely misunderstood the situation. He told the person on the other end of the line that he only moved the donations into offshore crypto accounts to protect the funds from the hospital's outrageous administrative taxes. He actually tried to argue that he was playing 4D chess to save Jenny more money, and that the luxury store was just a side investment meant to generate passive income for her future rehabilitation. The internet tore this excuse to absolute shreds within minutes. It was the most spectacular backfire in recent memory. Body language experts and audio analysts flooded YouTube with breakdowns of the call, pointing out exactly how manufactured and completely hollow his fake sobs sounded. He wasn't crying because Jenny was on life support. He was crying because his luxury store was seized and his accounts were frozen. The public instantly saw through the crocodile tears. You cannot claim you are protecting medical funds when the hospital is literally threatening to pull the plug on your supposed soulmate due to non-payment. This failed emotional appeal only cemented his guilt in the eyes of the public. He tried to weaponize the exact same fake vulnerability that he used to secure the donations in the first place, but the spell was broken. The concrete proof of his empty bank accounts and his chilling smile in the holding cell completely neutralized any chance he had of playing the victim again. This brings us to the most crushing thematic hypocrisy of this entire nightmare. Sumit positioned himself as the ultimate caretaker. If this were a reality show, he would be getting the golden edit, the devoted, exhausted partner who sacrifices sleep, money, and his own well-being to save the woman he loves. He sat in front of a ring light, looked directly into the camera, and begged millions of strangers to help him save Jenny's life. He preached about love, loyalty, and community. Yet behind the scenes, he was the parasite draining her dry. The core moral of this tragedy is horrifyingly clear. The very person who appointed himself as her digital bodyguard was the exact same person orchestrating her demise. He used the genuine empathy of millions of people as his personal ATM, exploiting humanity's best traits to fund his own worst impulses. He didn't just steal money. He stole the time Jenny could have used to get actual help, and he violated the trust of every single person who ever believed in the goodness of others. But what happened next proved that karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes it kicks the door completely off the hinges. As the financial investigators dug deeper into the blockchain to trace where the crypto vanished, they stumbled onto a digital breadcrumb trail that connected directly back to the mysterious Riya. And the alleged details of this connection are making people question everything they thought they knew about how this entire tragedy started. Reports claim that forensic accountants found encrypted direct messages between Sumit and an account linked to Riya, dating back to months before Jenny even got sick. Let that sink in. The timeline is terrifying. Rumors are spreading like wildfire that this wasn't an opportunistic crime born out of a sudden tragedy. Fans are speculating that Sumit and this phantom woman might have been funneling money and planning a massive exit strategy long before Jenny ever collapsed. Was crowdfunding always the end goal? Did they see her tragic diagnosis not as a nightmare, but as a twisted lottery ticket? The public is screaming for answers, and the pressure on the authorities is reaching a boiling point.